Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. After a brief hiatus, Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, brother?
All combined up. Not really, but yeah. The underwear Olympics get kicked off from a standpoint of executives talking, so that's the most important part anyway. But on-field work, I think, starts Thursday maybe, but yeah, we're getting closer to the NFL draft, so things are moving quick. It seems for the Eagles, man, they had no time whatsoever to get this thing kick-started again. It's 2 weeks and bang, you're right back at it.
No doubt about it. Good to see everybody back in here. Brief hiatus yesterday, Johnny Mac. I tell you what, it's tough to take off in this time of the year, John. No matter what, there's always some stuff to talk about. So I am on a little family vacation out here. We were skiing on Sunday and Monday, so that's why we had no show yesterday, John. Many people were saying, did the NHL debate kill Birds 365?
Yeah.
I said, no, none of that. So
I don't know why. There's a lot of people that can't compartmentalize things. I can debate things and argue things, and believe me, if people are they're thinking about it more than I'm thinking about it. I'll tell you that. Yeah, if you do this long enough, you get in some debates. It's not that big of a deal, people.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Johnny Mac, good stuff. John, we got plenty to talk about. I'll start with the main thing that seems to be dominating the airwaves of when I was off the air and I kind of checked back in. What is going on, John, with the White House visit with the Eagles? I mean, has the fake news world infiltrated Eagle land? What is going on? Because I woke up, I saw them not going. Either way, I don't really care. I mean, I think people overreact to stuff like this, but from your perspective, John, what is the truth in this situation?
Well, the truth is no invitation has been offered, so they didn't turn anything down. Now, there's some discussions back and forth, but the Eagles are going to get an invite, and when they get the invite, they're going to accept and be honored at the White House, which I think is positive, because many years ago, before everybody went off the reservation, and I'm talking about both sides. I don't want to get into politics after we got into hockey, but
yeah, right.
This used to be a nonpartisan thing. You just celebrate a championship and you move on. And it used to not be a thing. And then it became people shouting down people, depending who's on the White House. This guy sucks. This guy sucks. Blah, blah. You can't go there. You can't go. Just shut up. It's a sports team. Get honored for winning a sports championship.
Right.
It was tradition for many, many years, and then everybody tried to weaponize it. Hopefully, this is an indication of maybe that, at least that, tempering down. It's not important, other than the Eagles deserve to be honored for winning a Super Bowl, and it's pretty cool to visit the White House.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how political people make it.
It's unbelievable. It's
Trump, Obama, Biden, Bush, Carter, Clinton. Who cares? I would love to go to the White House and be able to take that in. I don't exactly. I think, but just to go back, I mean, there is going to be, John, a line of people who look at this and say,
I have no doubt about it.
Who look at this and say, did they respond to the negative backlash? And that's why
there was no. Oh, let me clarify that.
Well, just because look, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying, from the perception of some people was they woke up in the morning and they saw Eagles declined, or it was a resounding no, or whatever the word was that somebody used.
Yeah, that was made up. That was made up by. It
was completely made up.
I mean, to be honest, it was some site that nobody knows about. Philadelphia. It didn't even quote it. It quoted the Sun, which is a British tabloid. It didn't even link to an article. I don't even know if the original Sun article was true, but certainly that didn't happen. From the standpoint of the Eagles turning down anything, because they were never invited to turn anything down. So the original post, which got a lot of talk because people just see it and they retweet it or repost it and act like there was no link, there was no nothing. Circling back, it was an aggregator account. It wasn't, reporting. And, so I guess, and I didn't do it first, but I guess it was either Adam Schefter and Rappaport. I forget which one. I would, they're out. I assume they're out in Indianapolis. Maybe they talked to, who knows, Howie. Maybe they talked to somebody. I don't know who they talked to, but then they came out and said the Eagles weren't invited. And then I reached out. Other reporters reached out to certain people we know, and the Eagles basically confirmed there is no invitation. But when there is an invitation and they will be invited, they will be going. Now it's up to the players individually. Players can say, "I'm not going to go." But as a franchise, as a team, they're planning on going to the White House and being honored for a sports championship. That's not a validation of anybody's political leanings.
It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy that we have to say that. But no, I mean, I like this comment here from Jonathan. Not a fact-based story. It seems like it was all fake news. A lot of fake news, which is a fitting word to use, talking about visiting the Trump White House.
Well,
fake news, everybody.
You occasionally got to pick up a phone to confirm something, whether it's true or not. So rarely, I shouldn't say. Obviously, real reporters do that every day, but there's people that just say stuff and it's taken for whatever reason as gospel, and then people run with it from there.
Yeah, no,
but no invitation. And when there is an invitation, and there will be an invitation, the Eagles are going to accept it.
It does date back, John, to 2017, the Super Bowl, I guess, which was 2018 at the time.
Yeah,
Trump was in the office then, and they ended up not going to the White House. So I think people tie a little bit of that into it.
And let me just clarify that. In 2018, the Eagles planned to go to the White House as well. What happened there is, now that was a little bit more truly political, because that was the time when Trump was president. He was criticizing Colin Kaepernick and the national anthem. Right. So it had more of an NFL centric type of thing spin to it. A bunch of players didn't want to go because of that. And the Eagles were still going to go. It was going to be Doug Peterson, Nick Foles, and a smaller group. And the night before, the White House actually pulled it. I was going. We were all set to go. We passed the clearance.
Will you be going this time? That would be sick.
I plan on going.
Yeah.
J-Mac. If I can pass the clearance this time.
J-Mac in the White House, baby. JAKIB representing in the White House.
That's the only way. I was talking to Ed, my buddy and my compatriot, Ed Kratz, said there's no real value in it for us. And he's right. I said the same thing about the parade. Like, we have no access. So there's no real value as a reporter going to it. But I just want to go to the freaking White House. I want to be on the South Lawn.
I think there is some value just in terms of for Eagle Land. Isn't it a little bit of a historic moment to be there and get the picture taken?
Well, he means like from a standpoint of talking to the players, having interviews.
Yeah, there's no story or anything like that, right? But documentation, I think, is a fair way to look at it.
There's no. I mean, to me, like I said, it's just fucking cool. So there's my first curse.
Yeah,
South Lawn of the White House. I don't care if it's Joe Biden. I don't care if it's Barack Obama, Donald Trump. South Lawn of the White House.
I'm going too, man. I'm right there with you, Johnny Mac.
And I haven't been there since I was young. It's pretty cool, and I'll probably be disappointed because every time I go by a government building in the DC area, I'm always astonished and kind of depressed on how dilapidated they are. I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, right.
I can't imagine the White House is that way, but yeah, who knows? But I digress.
Yeah, no, good stuff there. We will move on that. I am happy to get some clarity on that, and we'll see. We'll continue to follow along and see what ends up happening there. John, the latest piece of news, the other thing I saw as I Kind of woke up early this morning, and I've been in not fully in vacation land, but I haven't quite followed along as much. Haven't been on the social accounts at all in the last couple of days. The Packers requesting a tush push ban. Johnny Mac, what do you make of it? What can you tell us about? I know it because originally it came out that an unnamed team, called it, but then somebody reported it was the Packers. What do you make of it, and what can you tell us about the story?
Well, the first time, I've been pretty consistent. The first time this came up was after the 22 season. So the Eagles Super Bowl season there, lost the Super Bowl, but had tremendous success with it. That's the first time it came up. Didn't really have a lot of groundswell. I said at the time, I don't even think it matters from Eagles fans' perspective because they're going to be awesome at the quarterback sneak, whether it exists or not.
Right.
In a lot of ways, I think really the only value to it is they're in people's heads a little bit with it. I mean, if you go back to Carson Wentz, they were a phenomenal quarterback sneak team, just using the traditional quarterback sneak. And they'll be the same way with Jalen Hurts because of the offensive line and because of the quarterback. And, we always talk about his ability to squat what he squats, the lower leg strength, but also he's smart, he's savvy. One of the best quarterback sneakers of all time was Tom Brady. He didn't squat 600 pounds, but he just had a feel. All right, here's the little bubble. I'm going there and converting. And Jalen has the capability to do that. So I don't think it affects the Eagles offense whatsoever. And I think Green Bay went about it wrong because now people are focused on, they're trying to ban it for the Eagles because the Eagles are successful at it. I think the argument to ban it, and by the way, I should have been phrased as you can no longer push people from behind, which I don't know why you could to begin with.
Right.
It used to be illegal. And then there was the Bush push game. Long before the Eagles did this, that was the most famous game in college, the Bush push, Reggie Bush. Notre Dame was on the cusp of beating USC, who I think was #1 in the country at the time. They stopped them, but all of a sudden a bunch of people pushed Reggie Bush in the end zone. No whistle blew. People were incensed on one side, obviously joyous on the other. And for whatever reason, this is about 2004, the NFL said, all right, you can't pull people, but you can push people. I don't know why they went down that road to begin with. And that's what I would have said. I would have taken the tush push out of it, and I would have said, all right, no more pushing, period. Think about the New Orleans game when Devontae Smith almost looked like he got killed.
Right.
This is the unintended consequence of being able to push players forward. Officials don't blow the whistle now, and that becomes a safety issue. That's the way I would have went about it. Take the tush push out of it because, I get why Eagles fans are upset, and they shouldn't even be upset because they're still going to be the best quarterback sneak team in football. I've said that. Would I ban it though? Yes. I would ban not the tush push. I would ban, but it encompasses everything.
Right. I get what you're saying. You're looking at it from a more big perspective on the game and the pushing and stuff like that versus,
I would ban pushing forward, just like pulling forward is banned. And pushing used to be banned years ago, about 20 years ago. I would ban that. So that encompasses the tush push. And I don't think it affects the Eagles one bit. I think they'll still be the best quarterback. They were the best quarterback sneak team dating back to, as I said, Carson Wentz. They'll be the best quarterback sneak team with Jalen Hurts because they have that offensive line and they have Jalen Hurts. And they're going to be the best quarterback sneak team. So I think it's much ado about nothing other than pushing should be out of the game entirely. Makes it easier to officiate. Saper, they always talk about safety dogma. Bar Saper, you're not going to have those as many as those Devontae Smith type plays. other than some lunatic getting 15 yards on purpose, which you can never legislate, but you'll be taking the 50-50 out of it. And then the aesthetics of the sport. When you're pushing people from behind, it's just, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but
right. And I do wonder if that comes into play because look, I mean, based on what we talked about Friday, these are entertainment leagues, Johnny Mac. They're trying to,
exactly. I mean, if we're up to me, I'd ban the bubble screen because it's so freaking ugly. That's it.
Bubble screen. No, I got you. I do wonder though. The one thing that bothers me with the conversation, John, is I get it. It's not the most football play. I understand all the talking points, but people say it as though it requires no skill or anything. There's no other team in the league that does it at the success rate of the Eagles.
That's why I think Green Bay went about it the wrong way.
Yeah, so it's like, why are you saying that? Because the Eagles are the only damn team that can do it this good.
Then it becomes, you're trying to penalize a team for doing it well, other than you're trying to improve the game. And certainly, I've seen so many teams awful at it. So I mean, it has nothing to do, from my perspective, it has nothing to do with penalizing the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think Green Bay made a mistake, and I don't think it gets passed because they made a mistake. I think eventually it will be banned because eventually they will ban pushing for safety reasons. Which will encompass the tush push play. But I think Green Bay went about it the wrong way. And to me, it has nothing to do with the Philadelphia Eagles. It has to do with getting pushing out of the game completely, whether it's 15 yards down the field or whether it's on a quarterback sneak.
The Packers are about to have Eagle Nation on their back though for a while because they got outed as the team trying to ban it. So we'll see what ends up happening there. You do think they should ban it though, but for a different reason. I understand your logic a lot more than I understand what.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for years. I don't like pushing in the game. I mean, pulling's already banned. Pushing was banned, and they unbanned it, and I'm like, why? One of the things, for old school football fans, if you think about goal line runs, for instance, and in the old days, you saw if you were stopped, play's over, whistle blows, lack of forward momentum, they're gonna spot the football. Then all of a sudden, I don't know, I think it was Mike Allstott really, and Chris Berman giving Mike Allstott highlights, which were when that was a big deal. And they just let the play on and on and gone and on and on. And you guys, the guy stopped, but he's still moving. The guys are pushing, and they just let it go forever. That's the part I don't like. I don't know. I don't know why they did it originally, but it should be removed from the game.
We'll see how it all shakes out. We'll talk to Jeff Kerr about that in just a second. We'll get his take on all the above topics that we just hit on. Let me rattle off a couple super chats, Johnny Mac, and then we'll get to Jeff here on the show. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I appreciate your support. I am coming to you from a remote location out in Lake Placid, New York, which is ironic because of our conversation on Friday. So pretty good stuff there. I got a nice USA hockey sweatshirt down here. So it's like USA hockey land here, John. It was actually cool because when I was a kid, I used to play in the tournament up here when I played hockey, and I got a chance to walk through that same rink that I played at when I was a kid, which is where they won the 1980 Olympics. So very cool to be able to do that. I want to thank Curtis for becoming a member. Curtis, thank you, brother. And Jason Gates, 2 new members today. Look at that. We appreciate you guys, and then some super chats here. JD3 says, White House's last priority as long as Zach Bond is still unsigned. Yeah, I'm with you. No updates on the Zach Bond stuff, but you're right. White House pie in the sky compared to that. Kyle Kokorski said, Zander, I thought it was going to be the Chiefs. I assume he's talking about the team that reported the tush push or requested the tush push to be banned. We got the Packers, Kyle. Anthony Wilson. What's up, Anthony? As a black man, you guys will never understand how divisive Donald Trump is in our community. I totally understand if a player does not want to go. Anthony, what I will never do is I'll never speak for you because you got different circumstances, different things than I do. So I'll never speak for you, brother, but I will always give you how I feel.
Every player will have the opportunity to go or not go. Nobody's going to be penalized for not going. Nobody's saying they should be penalized for not going. I will say, I'm not going to speak for anybody of a different race than me, but I will say I don't like the community talk because I know there's African Americans that support both sides of the aisle. I don't like the monolith. You know, Zander and are we from the same community? I don't give a shit. I don't.
No, you're right. That's such a good point.
I mean, that to me is part of the problem. Like, individuals have the right to make their own decision, support their own political candidate. End of sentence, full stop. That's it. It's my political rant of the day.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, let's get to Jeff Kerr here joining us on the show. Hopefully my internet's holding on. It says I'm low, but am I still with you, John? You still got me, right?
Yeah, it's still got you for now.
All right, good. Let's go get to Jeff Kerr here joining us on the show right now. Jeff, welcome in, brother. A Tuesday edition. We normally talk to you on Monday. Appreciate your flexibility. How you doing this morning, Jeff?
And I've been fired up. I could have told you guys right when the news broke out that there was a team, it was the Packers, because they are the biggest whiners of anybody in the NFL. They will. You know what? I said my piece yesterday. I went after them for not being 11-win teams. And personally, I'm not a fan of a team that fumbles the ball in the opening kickoff in their playoff game. But they did.
This is why the Packers made a mistake, Jeff. Because everybody's focusing on the Packers and the Eagles. This would have been my rule proposal. I don't know how you came on, because I think they should remove pushing from the game, as it used to be removed from the game.
Yeah, 2005 is when they brought it back.
Yeah. Why did they bring it back? Why? All of a sudden, it's created all these unintended. Think about Devontae Smith in the Saints game. Like, if you weren't allowed to push somebody forward, that play probably doesn't happen. That's where the Packers made a mistake. They made it about one team, and people saying, "Oh, they want to ban it because the Eagles are so successful at it." I heard Bill Polian talking about no. You know, there's the bull crap safety dogma, which I will admit, you know, people are hypocritical about that. But again, if you keep a play going, you make it harder on the officials. You know, back in the old school, pre-2005, you used to have those goal line plays with running backs. All right, your forward momentum stop, plays over. Boom. Now everybody's in a big scrum pushing. It makes it more difficult for the officials. It's not as safe because, as you see with DeMonte, people get hit after the play because it's still going. Nobody's blowing a whistle. So you're supposed to play towards the whistle. There's a whole host of unintended consequences. And from an Eagles standpoint, Jeff, they're the best quarterback sneak team with the tush push, and they're the best quarterback sneak team without the tush push.
I've talked to so many linemen on this, John, and you were with me on a couple of these conversations. Cam Jurgens said to me point blank, they can ban it. That's fine. We'll still score.
Exactly. They're going to be the best quarterback. They were with Carson Wentz. Does everybody forget? Yep. They're outrageous, insane quarterback sneak stats during the Carson Wentz era.
I think every time Carson Wentz went for a first down that season, he got it.
Yep.
From 1 yard.
They were actually better then than they are now.
So I had someone on the Cleveland Browns actually ask me if I could look up the league, because Cleveland actually thought they had the highest percentage of quarterback sneaks from 1 yard or shorter for first down. They were right. They have the highest percentage in the league. They were 92% this year.
Yeah. But the Eagles are going to be real good at it. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But I have no problem with them banning pushing from the game. And I'm surprised it's taken this. I'm surprised they changed it. Like, why did they bring it back? I still don't know. It just creates so many problems.
And you know what, John? It was like footnote Z when they brought it back to that year.
Jeff, you think they should get rid of it? Like from John's perspective, not from the Twitter discourse perspective.
I agree with John's perspective. I don't think they should be. Look, this is how ridiculous I think the whole thing is. They once banned the dunk in basketball because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar could do
That's
it.
true.
No one else could.
That's true.
So that's my viewpoint on it. Why are you banning something because you can't stop it?
Well, they do it all the time. Remember, there's two different things. I brought this. Zander and I had a big hockey argument last week, and it went off in a bunch of different directions. I brought up Will Chamberlain. They changed a bunch of rules in the NBA because Will Chamberlain was so dominant. They lowered the pitching mound in baseball because nobody could hit Bob Gibson.
Yep.
At the end of the day, the leagues have different jobs than teams. Like the Eagles' job is to take advantage of the rule as it's stated today and get an advantage. They've done that. They've done their job brilliantly. The league's responsibility is to make the game more entertaining for the fans as a whole. And if that means changing rules because Lou Alcindor's too dominant or Bob Gibson's too dominant, sometimes you got to do that. But that's not why I think they should change this rule. I think they should change this rule because it doesn't matter if you're talking about safety or if you're talking about over legislation of the game. It makes everybody hates the officials. You're making it harder on the officials.
Oh, yeah. And look, it's a hard play to essentially judge. I mean, especially for the Eagles. How many times this year, John, did we cover games where like, did they score? Did we know what they scored? How do you determine if they in?
Well, yeah, that's part of it too. And sometimes it works against them. And the bottom line for Eagles fans is they're going to be the best quarterback sneak team in football. And it's got nothing to do with the tush push. It really doesn't.
No,
in fact, I think it's become such a thing that people are so focused on. If they went back to the traditional quarterback sneak, their numbers would go up.
I think it would too. I actually think the percentage would be higher. It's just a play that it's worked for them, so they keep doing it.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts. And my thing is, I've talked to Jordan a lot about this, Landon Dickerson, Saquon. Look, that's why it works. It's those guys. It ain't the play.
Well,
I mean,
and Jalen, Jalen's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Jason
Jalen's
was a
definitely
big part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, so many teams. So many teams do it and fail.
John, did you see the clip from Packers Falcons 2 years ago that went viral when it was revealed they were the team, which I could have told you anyway. But Jordan Love trying it and he just slipped.
Yeah, he slipped.
That was awesome. I remember that play too.
You know, there's a team in college, and I'm sure there's a bunch of teams in college that brings the tight end in to do the quarterback sneak. So they keep the quarterback on the field, but they bring in a tight end.
Penn State does that with Tyler Warren.
Okay.
Colton
It wasn't Penn State. I'm sure a bunch of college teams do. I think it was Notre Dame.
They've done it too.
And I've seen, is it Andrews who did it in Baltimore? I think Baltimore may have done it in the NFL. I love that theory. The
Chiefs did it with Travis Kelce when he was younger.
If you have an athletic tight end, maybe played quarterback in college, if you think about for years, whether it was Logan Thomas or the Eagles tried it with Tyree Jackson, so many of these big quarterbacks turning into tight ends. I love that strategy because it worked with Tyler Warren. It worked. I think it was Mitchell. Is Mitchell Evans? I think it's Mitchell Evans.
Is he still in the league?
Well, he's Notre Dame, but he's been there for.
Yeah, I'm thinking another Mitchell Evans, not that.
I think it's Mitchell Evans, but
yeah,
I love that thought process. Eagles are going to be great at the quarterback sneak because their offensive line is great, and their quarterback can, he's a very savvy runner.
I would argue it's it's offensive line too, but I think Jalen Hurts is the one that gives you the extra edge. I mean, he's an elite. He's a great runner of the football. He always has been. I mean, I think that's what makes it so.
Just think about this:
Well, I bring up Carson though because
I think Carson was too, though.
Yeah,
if this play gets banned, I am going to laugh at all the naysayers of Jalen Hurts. I'm like, well, if he sucks, then how come there was a play banned? That's why Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's a legend, like John said. That's why Bob Gibson's a legend. They changed the rules to stop them.
Right.
Yeah, look at it. Look at that bright side. And that's why I think Green Bay's I don't know why they phrased it that way. Don't make it about.
There's one thing here that I think, just from the comments, that I think this is a fair comment. I'd like to give you guys both a chance here. Curtis checks in. He says, I disagree so much with J-Mac on this. It became a 2-yard play for the Eagles with the push. That's a big difference. What do you think of that? Because I do think that it has gotten to a point now where it's like 2, they're going to get it. And that's where I think teams could make the argument against it.
I'm going to back up Curtis here. So the Eagles were 39-47 last year on the tush push or quarterback sneak, however you want to describe it. 8 of the 9 times they failed, they got it on the next play. So really, they've only failed once, and that was an aborted snap in week 1.
And this is why you shouldn't back Curtis, because for the Eagles, it's a 1-yard play. They think of it as one. Yeah, they might get 2 yards, but they think about it as a 1-yard play. So in essence, if it's 3rd and 2, they might tush push it, and that's considered a failure because they don't get it. But then they go again on 4th down. They consider it a 1-yard play. It's designed to get 1 yard. If they get more than 1 yard, great. And the team's not ready. But the strategy behind it, 3rd and 1, 4th, and they know they're going for it. 3rd and 2, excuse me. They know they're going for it on 4th and 1. So that's why I look at those stats, and what were they? 39 of 47?
39 of 40, 81.8%.
81.8%. They were way over that with the quarterback sneak. They were the 90 plus way in the Carson.
Where do you think 92%ers came from?
Exactly. And
92% time it works every time.
He just made that number up.
No, but you know what's funny? I actually looked that up for him, and he laughed last year when I told him. I said, that made up number is actually real. He goes, get out of here. And I showed him it.
Yeah, they I don't know what. Now, I know they were above that. Carson was outrageous that 1 year, the converting on 3rd and 4th and short. But that's why even the 39 and 47, like, I don't consider 3rd and 2 a failure when you get it on 4th and 1, but those numbers do, because the strategy behind it is they're going to go for it and they're going to get it. That's why I think it's a 1-yard play. It's not designed to be a 2-3 yard. If they get it, great. I covered Brad Johnson. Brad Johnson was another great quarterback. I've seen that guy get 6 yards on a quarterback sneak. It's not a 6-yard play.
He was a sneaky good sneaker.
Oh, he was a great sneaker. It's designed to get a yard.
What about Tom Brady? Tom Brady was one of the best quarterback sneakers I've ever seen. Yeah.
Best ever, Tom Brady, along with many other things. Just because he could see the bubble, and he was smart and savvy, and said, all right, here's the open spot, bang, conversion, go get it. Tempo's a big part of it too. Tempo's a big part of it. Get up to the line of scrimmage as quickly as possible. Make sure the defense can't get situated.
I got a little upset yesterday when people were thinking it was the Commanders. I said, actually, the Commanders praised that play more than but everybody looks at that whole.
I think the Commanders did a better job against it than anybody too.
I do like, but do you hear what Bobby Wagner said after that game, John? Do you remember?
I do not.
He said he loves how they do it because he said no one can stop it, and he said we can't stop it. He said that was our best opportunity to stop it, essentially. Yeah.
Well, and Frankie Louvu was trying to time it. Like, he wasn't doing it on purpose. He was trying to time it. And that's the only way you can basically stop it. But I knew we would get mired down in this because people are making it about the Eagles, and that's why I think that's the Packers' mistake. Make it about
and they made it about the Eagles, and their team president basically said that week in a mailbag, it's not a real football play. So
a lot of people have been saying that for years, but that part of it is like I said, I told Zander before he came on, if it were up to me, I'd ban the bubble screen just because it's so.
Well,
that's
what I said. It's not a football. I always say, I guess the slant's not a football play. I guess glorified arena football where we want to play
they're all
in a dome all day.
plays. They're all football plays. I'm watching it. It's a
I do get a kick out of it. Like it's a physical play. I mean, this is a physical game. You know what I mean, John? Like you talked about the other day. We're 10, 15 years away from flag football. It's closer to that. Jeff, what's your take on the White House stuff? I don't want to be too long with it, but I do want to give you a chance to comment. Seems like there was some fake news, and then now it's clarified probably that they will.
I'm not really political. I'll just say that support who you want to support. That's all I care about. I could care less if they go to the White House or not.
It's a novel approach. Let people support who they want to support, and don't assume that everyone's.
And don't tell me who I should support and not.
Exactly.
I tell people that all the time. I always say I'll support who I want to support. You support who you want to support. End of discussion. I still get crap from people because I went to Penn State. I'm like, for the Sandusky thing, I'm like, or is what John says, elevate the conversation. Let's talk. And then I'll talk with you.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. A little bit of news. Jonathan Allen on the trade markets.
There's a little bit more news on that front. I don't know if you heard Jeremy Fowler today, but he said the Eagles would be interested in Myles Garrett, especially if the Commanders would go after him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what I'm thinking. When I
hear Jonathan Allen's on the market, I think Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I think Myles Garrett. This could be an arms race to get Myles Garrett between the Commanders and the Eagles.
I'm one of those people. Like I'm always like, okay, whatever. But I'd be all for Myles Garrett.
Yeah, well, Myles is there. We had an interesting thought experiment last week, so I'm going to throw it out there. We got obviously we have to give something up for Myles Garrett. I realize people don't want to, and the Eagles don't have great draft capital because they just won the Super Bowl. They have the 32nd pick in the draft. That ain't getting it done. If you go forward to next year, they're probably going to be 28 to 32. Maybe worst case scenario, 24 to 32. It's not a great draft pick again. So how do you get Myles Garrett? My theory is you got to put in a good young player.
Yep.
And if they lose an edge rusher, they might want an edge rusher. And the most obvious one to me would be Nolan Smith.
That was the way I was thinking there. It's like, do you really want to give up Nolan Smith, though?
Jeff, there's so many Eagles fans that say, Nolan Smith had a phenomenal run in the second half of the season. You can't give up Nolan Smith for Myles Garrett. I'm like, what? This is maybe the best defensive player of the generation.
I mean, literally, there are literal debates in this league. Who is better, Myles Garrett or TJ Watt? That's a pretty damn good conversation right there. And you're not wrong on either of them if you think one's better than the other.
If Myles Garrett never plays another snap, he's going in the Hall of Fame.
Here's one for you, John.
Does that tricep surgery make any Eagle fans change their opinion on would you?
But no, you know what? I don't know if it does, but it'll change Cleveland's mind. Cleveland's not making that deal, by the way.
Here's one for you, John. Who is the only player in NFL history to have more sacks per game than Reggie White?
Myles Garrett?
Yep.
You gonna guess?
Myles Garrett.
Not Derek Barnett?
It is not Derek Barnett.
He broke all the sack records at Tennessee, so I thought maybe. Myles is fun. I've never seen a better player in person than Myles Garrett.
The guy's like 14 plus sacks in like 7 straight seasons or something like that.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable player, and Eagles fans don't have to worry about it because, trust me, Cleveland's not doing that deal. But, if they want Myles Garrett, and I assume that Howie wants Myles Garrett, they're going to have to give up something substantial to get him.
The team I'm worried about getting them, it's not the Commanders.
Well, it should be, but give me the other team.
The Lions.
Well, that would be scary.
They might go all in because of what happened this year.
Do the Lions have what it takes to get him in terms of capital?
I don't think it matters. I think they're gonna. I think they know the window is now. They have to do it.
Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it wouldn't be fair. It'd be like the Eagles with the tush push.
I think the Commanders are I think
might
the
have to
Commanders
ban the
would be a
pass
favorite.
rush. Yeah.
ban the
pass rush.
Oh man.
Hey, they should ban blitzing since the Eagles didn't blitz in the Super Bowl.
They should, well, they should ban. The Eagles were in the Super Bowl. That's one of the most dominant performances in the first half before Nolan got hurt. Really, now we know part of the reason it slipped a little bit.
So my buddy for CBS is a Super Bowl historian. Like, he probably has watched every Super Bowl game like at least 20 times in his life and judges Super Bowl winners. He actually ranked the 24 Eagles since 2000, based on how they played in the Super Bowl, above anybody else.
In the actual game,
yeah,
that's one of the best Super Bowl performances.
Yeah, and he was very distinct on his rankings. Everybody's like, "Oh, this team was better than him." He said, "I didn't say that. I just said based on how they played in that game." And
in that game, I've never seen anything like that first half. That first half, they scored 24 points and gave up 23 yards.
Yeah, I know. The Eagles have more points than Chiefs had yards. It's insane. Cooper DeJean scored more touchdowns this year than touchdowns he gave up.
Yeah, Cooper was. What a year. What a
Cooper
season.
and Quinyon, John, weren't they both graded out in like the top 5 on PFF for the year?
Top 10, I believe. I think Cooper was number 1.
Cooper was 1. I knew that.
Here's a fun Eagles Commanders debate I have with some of the guys I know in Washington. Who had a better draft class this year, the Eagles or the Commanders?
I'm going to say the Eagles, but maybe that's biased. But I look at two guys who contributed to a Super Bowl team. And I'm not saying the Commanders draft class wasn't great, but I feel like the contribution.
You get the quarterback, though.
It's tough. I said, when you go from 4 to 12 wins and make the conference championship game for the first time.
I guess you'd have to say Commanders because it's the quarterback. So
I'll say this. I'll say this, though. The Commanders should you got the second pick in the draft. All right. The Eagles hit with 22 and 40.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's a more impressive draft from the Eagles standpoint. But I mean, if I had to lean in because of Jaden Daniels, I have to go Commanders. But
remember, Jalix Hunt was a big contributor in that Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, but they had some good.
Will Shipley had a good postseason. Jeremiah Trier Jr. had a good postseason. I wrote about the rookie class this week for CBS and like what they did in the playoffs. And kudos to the Eagles.
They had a great draft.
They've been on a serious run here of drafts. This is not just one draft now. This is 3 drafts in a row of home runs, and even 4 drafts ago.
Even since 2020, you got Jalen Hurts in that draft.
Yeah, right. You got now they had some misses in that draft, which people love to bring up, but you're always going to have some misses.
But you also got Jalen Hurts
good too. If I'm not mistaken, 2021 was Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Milton Williams, right?
Yep.
In the top 3. So that's you're on a run right now.
Yeah, they've been.
And 2022 was Jordan Davis. Someone remind me of their second round pick was before I.
Was it Juergens?
Yeah, Juergens was the second round pick.
Juergens was the second rounder there. Yeah, I mean they've had some really good.
Eagles fans hated that pick.
I loved it because Jason Kelce loved it.
Yeah, I thought I remembered liking that pick, John. I know somebody did a reaction.
Oh, I know because I predict I had a good beat on the draft that year. Because the source, not me. So I had the Eagles trading up. It's when I broke out the Roman Reigns meme of acknowledge me because I had Eagles taking Jordan Davis, trading up to get Jordan Davis, and I had to because I was told flat out that if Juergens was there at 51, they're taking him. And nobody really knew that much about Juergens, but and that's when Howie said that's how we roll because people were pissed off at him.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't be surprised they take a tackle in the first round.
I will not be upset at all if they take a tackle in the first round. One of the reasons that we just won the Super Bowl, and one of the reasons that that the best 10 years of the Philadelphia Eagles have existed in the last 10 years is because of the trenches. So why would we get away from that? I mean, that's the
best. I gotta laugh at what you just said. I gotta laugh at what you just said. The best 10-year stretch of the Philadelphia Eagles in the last 10 years. We got to make a T-shirt of that.
No, I mean the last 10 years have been better than anything prior. You're right. I probably didn't say it correctly, but you know what I meant.
I know what you meant, but I want to put that on a T-shirt now.
All right, we'll put it on a T-shirt.
That's like some
if it doesn't sell, though, Jeff, if it doesn't sell, I'll be sending the bill to you. All right.
Yeah, but that I mean, to watch that defensive front completely, we just talked about the Super Bowl, completely shut down Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes without blitzing. Yeah, I always joke lifetime dispensation, which lasts about 3 years in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Nobody should debate the Eagles' foundational roster building, and it starts up front on both sides of the ball. Nobody should ever be upset.
Vic Fangio probably added to his legend after that Super Bowl. Did you see the
Definitely
Jalen Sun stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
That was awesome.
They had a Super Bowl. They had a Super Bowl prep meeting, and Vic had the defense held them back after the prep and went over the Super Bowl in the second half. Said it wasn't
and he was like going through all their goals, which a couple of defensive players told me like some of their goals about. I really want to ask like one of these players, how many did you guys get right? Because it looked like Jalix said only 3 or 4 out of the 10.
I legitimately love that Vic Fangio did that. I really do.
Wasn't acceptable the second half.
I love it.
Vic Fangio can coach on my staff any day of the week.
Oh my gosh.
I don't care what sport it is.
I said, it's very rare, and it happened twice with the Eagles. And I freely admit, because I'm in the off season, and Jeff's a big Penn State guy, big Saquon guy, said there's no way he's going to live up to his reputation. There's no way. It's not possible. And Vic Fangio, same thing. When you have these giant reputations in sports, it's almost 100% of the time. It just never works the way you envision it. They surpassed 2 different guys in the same season. It was a special season in so many ways. That's another example of how special it was. When you come in with the reputation of Saquon Barkley and Vic Fangio, and then you surpass it, special shit happens, as Nick Sirianni will say.
Yeah, it's funny. Like 8 months ago, we're on this show. We're talking about, if the Eagles defense, Vic Fangio can get him to 15th.
I know.
That was the whole off-season
goal. Yep. Yeah, that was my goal. Get him middle range.
And like Saquon, John, like you said, 70 yards. That's a heck of a season.
I know.
He got 2,500.
It's funny because the upcoming season, 2025, was really supposed to be the year that the defense took off. But they were a year ahead of schedule with the way they played this past season.
And someone had told me in September after the bye week, Jalen Hurts is only going to turn the ball over 3 times the rest of the year. I guess the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl.
Well, that
was their plan. To their credit, whatever you think of Kellen Moore, Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo, they made the decision. And I thought, to be honest, it was a little panicky at the time and during the bye week, and said just what Jeff said. If we don't turn it over, we're going to win. And they were right.
Yeah. You and I had that debate, and I'm like, the problem is Jalen's turning the ball over. Because they were in pretty much every game.
He did. He had 7 turnovers in the first 4 games. So
I gotta get that still shot. And when they were outgained 256-0 in that 4, I'm like, would you believe this was a Super Bowl team?
Let me ask you both a question: is the way that the Eagles played the game this year, and having reached the mountaintop and winning the Super Bowl, do you believe it will have a bigger effect on the NFL as a whole? I mean, if you look at the NFL and it's on this trajectory, right, and it's passing and it's, offense and it's high-powered offenses, and here come the Eagles that are like, let's simplify it. Let's run the ball. Let's not turn it over. Almost go back to the fundamentals, and they march their way to a Super Bowl. Do you think this will change the trajectory of the NFL?
So there's a team. There's a team that already kind of does what the Eagles did. They just didn't win the Super Bowl nor get to it. Baltimore.
You could argue they do it at least, from a passing standpoint.
Yeah, but they still have that. They still
there's something about that. There's some, Baltimore played really poorly defensively for the first 10 weeks.
But then they were really good the last. Yeah. That's why I didn't budge on them being my Super Bowl pick out of the AFC. I'm like,
I think they're great but they underachieve constantly. Yeah, and I know Lamar gets all the blame from it because he's the quarterback. But can't hand the ball to Mark Andrews, who's a great player, but he dropped it. And shit happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned Polian was talking about Matthew Stafford because I was listening to him this morning. I mentioned him before. I think people don't know how close the Eagles were losing that game. Like if the Rams don't miss on the third down play, Tyler Higbee was running a whip route. The defender, I forget who it was, might have been Bond, fell, slipped in the snow. If Jalen Carter doesn't make that play, that's either first and goal at the 1 or the 2 or a touchdown, and the Eagles are in deep shit. That's how close it was for the Los Angeles Rams.
The Eagles were 13 yards away from an all-time collapse.
Yeah. And
Jalen Carter. I don't like to play the if game. I mean, can't you play that in every game? We just played it with the Ravens game. We can play. I mean, you can play that.
You can't play it in the Super Bowl when you completely dominate. There was no one play that was going to turn that thing.
But the majority of NFL games are determined by what? Less than 3? Isn't that what?
Well, the same way football game. It's the same thing when people say, "Well, the Eagles wouldn't have lost if Saquon didn't drop it against Atlanta." Or whatever.
Right, that's that's why I never went down that route. I mean, the thing is, I love the thing. I mean, the way I think about it is, you're right. If Jalen Carter doesn't make that play, they lose. But at the end of the day, draft great players, develop great players, and great players will make great plays, and that's what helps you win football.
Polian's point and bringing it up this morning was they didn't block Jalen Carter on the biggest play of the season because of a miscommunication. That was a great player. The fourth down was more to me Jalen Carter
being Jalen Carter.
Yeah. But on the third down, it was a miscommunication on the biggest spot of their season. And he was just trying to point out, he was talking about Stafford, if they're going to trade him. That's how close they were.
That's what I don't get what they're doing. That's what I don't get what they're doing over there. Trading Stafford, trading Cup. I'm like, you guys do know you were 13 yards away from being the defending Super Bowl champions, and you had.
No, I was hard on the Rams. But I tell you, it was Jordan Mailata who kind of turned on, because I think McVay's a little bit overrated. But
you always thought that.
Not that he's a bad coach, just that people mishear me there. Shocker. But that he's a little bit overrated because people act like he invented offense.
Well, don't you know, John? He can name all 11 players on the other side of the ball.
I know.
Well, he does have a good resume to go with it. But I get what John's saying in that you have a coffee with the guy and you're like the next greatest offensive mind in the world. I get that part.
Jordan Mailata said they can freaking rush the passer. And when Jordan says that, I start to take notice. I mean, and you go back the week prior when they destroyed Minnesota and people blame Sam Darnold. They couldn't block him.
Sam Darnold had no time to throw the football.
Yeah. Their pass rush is really impressive.
John, you're the Sam Darnold savant here. Matthew Stafford or Sam Darnold next year for the Rams?
I'll always take Matthew Stafford over Sam Darnold.
But if Stafford wants out, would you go for Sam?
Well, I mean, you got it. You're a contender, so you have to get somebody real. But I mean, to me, are you going to pay Sam Darnold $40 million or Matthew Stafford $40 million?
Yeah,
I'll go 2 more years with Matthew Stafford.
I think I would too. Just Stafford's a pro's pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you guys think he'll end up if he does leave LA?
Oh man,
I think he's an interesting one, man. I think
If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm going after him.
I think it's
that's what I mean. A team like that.
I think it's Giants or Pittsburgh.
Giants was the other one I was thinking. Yeah. I don't know how much I'll do for the Giants. How ready are they to win?
I don't know why I'd want to go to the Giants. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't know why anyone would want to go to the Giants.
No, and the Giants are just dumb. They do things dumb. Like they'll try to get the quarterback before, and it's a 37, 38-year-old quarterback, whatever he is, with no offensive line.
That's where I ripped the Giants for the Saquon Barkley stuff. It's not, they were right in letting him go. That's not it. But how you wasted all these years of this player and you put him on an actual football team and look what he does.
Well, Now I'm going to defend the Giants. Like they've had a terrible offensive line since, I don't know, Tom Coughlin.
But that's what I mean. That's their fault.
But they've drafted players, they've signed players. They had 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick. They can't develop them. Like they're throwing assets into the position. That's where you got to go out and find. You can't find Jeff Stoutland, but you got to find somebody who can teach offensive line.
Zander can back me up on that. Evan Neal was a heck of a player in college.
Yeah,
really
what
good.
the heck happened?
Well, I don't know. The one thing
Thomas-
about Evan Neal in college was there was moments, Jeff, where you saw him get turned into a turnstile, and you're like, "Whoa, what happened on that play?" So
Yeah,
I don't know. No,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
he definitely
overall
has-
though. Overall, though,
definitely has
yeah, he was
lapses.
an excellent player.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andrew Thomas actually is the one guy who turned into a player. He got hurt last year, but
He's always
he's a good player. They took Will Hernandez with like, I don't know, 35th pick maybe.
Yeah, he
like
was.
top of the second round. They tried to fix the offensive line. They just can't do it because they hire bad offensive line coaches. They don't develop players. That's the one thing I always say about the draft. And the draft is coming up, and we got to talk combine. But people think you draft a player and he's good or bad. It doesn't stop when you draft a player. You got to develop that player.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, maybe I'm not defending a Jalen Reagor, but is it different if he's somewhere else?
With Jalen Reagor, probably not.
Yeah. Like I said, that's a bad example, but
yeah.
Same with JJ Arcega-Whiteside, but there are certain guys. It's maybe Nelson Aguilar has a different career somewhere else, and he's still in the league.
It's amazing, by the way. Still in the league.
It really is.
And Mac Hollins, contributor.
Well, he was the 4th round pick, but I consider Mac Hollins
always
a
got a bad
successful
rap.
pick. Yeah.
What was Aguilar though? Aguilar was what, a first?
First round pick.
Yeah,
19th
for 10
overall,
years.
I believe.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Nelly wanted nothing to do with me when I wanted to talk to him after that Ravens playoff game last year. And then a couple players told me he's always like that. I'm like, no, I think it's a little more.
He's a bit traumatized from his time in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think so. and it was funny because I wanted to do it like a little, because he had caught a touchdown that game. He had a couple good blocks. I wanted to, just, this is the guy, right? This is the guy that, he can't catch babies, that type of thing. So
yeah, that's tough.
he also has a Super Bowl. He also has a franchise record for catches in the Super Bowl for the Eagles.
Pretty impressive. All right, Jeff, I'm going to give you a hypothetical here. I'm going to channel my inner Jody Mack after Johnny Mack called me out on being Jody last week, which was hilarious. I'm going to channel my inner Jody Mack, and I want you to fill
McDonald.
it in. All right, I want you to fill in the blank here. It's June, let's say June 7th. All right, maybe that won't be the time, but I'm just speculating.
All right, Jody Mack.
All right, it's June 7th, and we just got news that the Philadelphia Eagles have traded successfully for Myles Garrett. Okay, what did
Why
they give
June
up
7th? Why not April 7th?
I just did June 7th because after June 1st, but I know they can designate it. I just did post June 1 to take that out of it. What did the Eagles send to get Myles Garrett?
I don't even know
what did they send.
I don't even know what it would cost to get Myles Garrett, besides multiple first-round picks.
That 32 pick is a weak first-round pick, man. That thing might as well be a second.
It is a second, essentially. That's why they usually trade down.
Well,
I'll tell you what, the Eagles would never do it, but if I'm the Browns, I'm asking for Cooper DeJean. I really am.
Well, he's even going higher. Yeah. It's going to be a very difficult trade to pull off from the Eagles' perspective because they're too good. I mean, the draft capital isn't where other teams are going to be, so that means you're going to have to add in potential young talent, and people don't want to give up young talent.
Especially on a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, especially after watching that young talent perform the way they did on the Super Bowl stage. So It's going to be very difficult. I think the only thing that gets the Eagles in the conversation is the Commanders, is an arms race.
Yeah.
To keep them away from the Commanders.
I feel like if you're keeping up with the Commanders, though, you're not going to be able to offer what the Commanders can offer, probably.
Probably not. So you have to go above and beyond.
I think Commanders got a lot of money.
So, John, what are you saying over there, John? What are you saying? Nolan and somebody? What are you saying?
I'm saying 2-1s, Nolan. And by the way, Nolan might be off the table because of the surgery.
Because of the tricep, right?
Yeah. So Jeff just won Cooper.
Nolan and Cooper. All right, I'm out.
No, not both, but because again, Nolan Smith's injury, people are going to want to see where he is. And now you're going to, and by the way, from an Eagles standpoint, forget about Myles Garrett. Now we've talked about Nolan Smith's undersized frame, playing edge rusher. Well, now he tore his tricep. Why did he tear his tricep? Probably because he's leaning on bigger, stronger guys.
Right.
And bang, now you have to start worrying about some injury issues there.
And that'll always be true in football, man. Big guys beat up little guys. I mean,
yeah.
I know Myles Garrett's Myles Garrett, but if you could give up less and somehow move up in the draft to even have a shot at Abdul Carter, do you do it?
Yeah, but you're not going to do that, Jeff.
I know you're not going to do that.
You got to get to the top 10.
But we're playing Jody Mack here.
You're right. You're right. I did say
he just wants to get that Penn State. Is Abdul Carter better than Micah Parsons?
As a pass rusher, I don't know
about that.
I don't know about
Abdul Carter's good, man, but he's not. He's undersized at the NFL level for sure.
I think Abdul Carter is going to be a really good player, but we're talking Hall of Fame trajectory here with Micah Parsons.
Is Micah Parsons on the trade block?
Maybe
he might be.
Big extension coming. I mean,
that's the one I'm hoping for. I want to see Micah Parsons in Philadelphia for 2 reasons.
So, by the way, before you go into this, it really is an inside joke. I know it's on Twitter a lot, but there really is an inside joke with Penn State guys, and I'm in on this. Boy, he wants to be an Eagle so bad. There really is.
I agree with that.
He's a Philly fan. He likes Philadelphia teams.
And we're amazing. What do you mean? The Dallas Cowboys stink.
And we're amazing.
They are.
Well, I want to say,
tell me all the time, even objectively, they are tremendously successful in the last decade.
They are.
And they have been.
For me, I want to see Micah here because of Jeff and because of the fan base doing the 180 quicker, the quickest 180 in the history of mankind, and displaying how good he is.
John, you would love Micah Park. He is an awesome interview. He really is.
He seems like it.
He always says what's on his mind. He's challenged me to bowling matches before, so he's a bowler.
By the way, poor Joe Shane's out in Indianapolis evidently just said he's happy for Saquon Barkley and the success he had with the Eagles.
Shane's an idiot.
You know what? My favorite Hard Knocks episode of that offseason one isn't it's him going over to
his kid?
No, not his kid. Who had the 3rd pick in the draft last year? Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, the Patriots about trading up for a quarterback because they like Drake May.
Yeah, well, his kid said he should trade up and get Drake May, I believe.
No, his kid said Jaden Daniels. Joe Shane's kid?
Oh, Jaden Daniels. Okay.
Yeah, it was Jaden Daniels.
By the way, as someone who loves to rip the Patriots a lot for what they've done, there are 2 moves I've absolutely loved what the Patriots did. And I think they're going to be a lot better next year. They got rid of Gerard Mayo, who sucked as a coach, and they drafted Drake May. Drake May played really well for that lack of talent he had around him.
Yeah, but the problem I have, they're doing it in reverse order what you should. Now you have Drake Drake May. I don't know what he's going to be. Obviously, he's got talent, but we've seen it. If you don't have the offensive line to protect the guy, he's going to get shell-shocked.
Spend the money. They got tons of it. They got like $120 million of cap space. Figure it out.
Because we just saw Patrick Mahomes get shell-shocked, and we've seen Tom Brady get shell-shocked in the Super Bowl by pass rushes. Trust me, Drake May is going to get shell-shocked.
Patrick Mahomes lost his Super Bowls because of
both of them.
And have an offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the Eagles' defensive line was so
Chiefs
damn
players
good.
did not agree with me on that when I was talking to them about, hey, you guys are making two positions weaker when you move Tooney over. I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Well, it worked for a couple weeks, and then right up until it didn't work.
Yeah.
That's the danger. But the Eagles made him pay for it, and deservedly so. All right, let's talk combine real quick while we got you, Jeff. Howie's going to speak today. Nick's going to speak later this afternoon.
What did they actually announce the time they're speaking yet?
I think it's 2:00 Eastern. Howie goes first, then Nick.
Yeah, remember we got the TBA last week.
Yeah.
They were the only team with a TBA.
Yeah, I know. They're ridiculous, but I digress. It's going to be 2:00, 2:00 Eastern for Howie, 2:15 for Nick. I'll double check that at the break. But Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Mekhi Becton, Zach Bond. Those are the big four, so to speak. How many can you keep, and what is Jeff Kerr making sure he keeps?
I think he keep two. I honestly think it's going to be Bond and Becton.
I like your prediction there. I think Becton, 95% of it, Becton coming back.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually a little higher than that. I think it's more like a 98, 99. I think Mekhi Becton will be back here next year.
I'm with you. Everything points to me. I don't think he's going to get a ton of money because people are concerned with his knee. He indicated a clean out day. He'd like to stay at guard. He prefers staying at guard.
I love what he said. I love what he said. It's easier.
Yeah, it's easier. It is easier.
It is easier.
Yeah, I think everything points to Mekhi Becton being back. And I'm with you with Zach Bond. I will say this. PFF just upgraded because they're the best when it comes to contract predictions. They just updated it. And they went to $15 million a year. I'm trying to pull it up as we speak.
Oh no, it's going up for Bond.
Yeah, it went up a little bit, not a ton, but I want to get the exact number they gave. And I've heard a lot of people talk about the Eagles aren't going to go that high. And it's okay, 3 years, $45 million, so 15 average annual value, which is not the big number. $29.25 million guaranteed. If those are the numbers,
how fast can I get that contract to him?
Boy, Howie Roseman paying $15 million a year to an off-ball linebacker. A lot of people, Jeff, are saying it's not going to happen. I'm starting to waver, but I'm with you. I'll be on this show ripping Howie if they don't get Zach Bond done.
Yeah.
I
think you have to, honestly, because of the uncertainty of when Nakobe Dean will be back. Oren Burks is a free agent. We're not sure about Trotter. I think they'll sign another linebacker in free agency, by the way. And if Oren doesn't,
well, if you bring Oren back at 2 years, $10 million, maybe even less, 2 years, $8 million, the Eagles go cheap. In some ways, I'll say this: Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Oren Burks all had career years. Every single one of them.
Yep.
As off-ball linebackers.
With Vic Fangio. And Bobby King.
Does that factor into their thinking?
I really think Bobby King and Vic Fangio is going to be what gets Zach Bond to stay here. I really do. I think Zach Bond has been on the other side of that fence. He knows he pretty much was a fringe player at best before he came here. I think
you're talking about a pay cut. You're talking about him taking a pay cut. Because to John's point, John, I think I don't want to speak for John, but I think what John was insinuating is you took three guys and they got their best year out of all of them. Do you pay $15 million to Bond, or do you bet again that Vic and Bobby King
you got Trotter
and
why
get
can't he make Trotter into Nakobe Dean?
Trotter doesn't cost me a dime. I'm not saying he's going to be Zach Bond, but does Howie make that bet versus paying the big money to the linebacker? I'm not saying I think Howie's going to do it.
I think you got to pay Zach Bond. Look, this is how I look at it.
I'm with. Here's what I do if I'm Howie. I go to Vic. I knock on his door. I say, "Hey, do we need Zach Bond?" If Vic says yes, I'm 15 million all day. If he says, you know what, I can make do with Trotter, I'm going to make do with Trotter. I'm leaving it up to Vic.
Yep. If Vic tells you he wants Milton Williams back, you try to get him.
I agree.
But
I agree.
And look, I would pay Milton Williams a king's ransom. I would.
I get a lot of pushback from Eagles fans. Milton Williams, to me, if he doesn't get $20 million a year, and that's not the important number. The important number is the guaranteed money. So here's where they have Milton Williams: 3 years, $63 million. And by the way, I think he might get a fourth year, $40 million guaranteed. If I'm the Eagles, I got to find a way to keep Milton Williams.
That's a deal
John,
I make.
John, I don't even know if you would consider this a hot take or not, because I'm not a hot take guy. But if I did pound for pound, top 10 players in the Eagles, I think I'd put Milton Williams somewhere on there.
I'm going to be doing that later. I haven't thought about it yet, but we do our top 25 pure football players. Milton's going to be high on that list if he's here, obviously.
And if I kept Milton off it, it's because the Eagles are loaded everywhere else.
And with the way you just said that Milton contract, though, isn't technically Bond? What'd you say he was? 3 years, $45 million with 30 guaranteed.
Bond was 3 years, 45, 29.25 guaranteed. Milton was 3 years, 63.
So can you help me understand that? Because it's 15 mil a year, but isn't it 10 mil a year with the guaranteed money? I mean, I know the guaranteed money is what matters more.
Yeah, I mean, most of these things, when they do, they're glorified. And that's why I say, Zach Bond's going to sign a glorified 2-year contract wherever he goes. The Eagles will put on at least 3 voidable years to help with the cap. Other teams will probably do it as well. Same thing with Milton. It'll be a glorified 2-year contract where you can get out of it after the second year if you need be. Teams are getting smarter. I do find it interesting because I use PFF because Brad Spielberger, friend of the show, used to work there. Does a phenomenal job. He was the best when it came to projected contracts, like demonstrative performance. He was the best. And I figure they learned something from him while he was there. He's moved on. He works for an agency now, but
I know Spot Track used to pick his brain all the time.
Over the Cap. Well, he worked at Over the Cap. He never worked for Spot Track that I know of, but
okay.
He's great at what he does, and they've been pretty good when it comes to contracts. It's interesting because they have, of the Eagles, they rank the free agents. They have Josh Sweat at 10, Milton Williams at 17, Zach Bond at 23, and he spiked. He went up. Mekhi Becton at 42, Isaiah Rodgers at 105. Now, NFL.com, NFL Media just came out with Greg Rosenthal's top free agency rankings. And the Eagles guys are generally much higher. But I think PFF is like the analytically, like that's what the Eagles would look at it as. Whereas the NFL media ones is more like the league, because there's a lot of dumb teams in the league. No offense.
There's about 20 dumb teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they make it harder on the good team. That's the problem.
Yeah. And they have Milton as number 3 in the entire NFL and the best defensive player.
Yeah.
And I think they're closer to the league viewpoint. PFF is closer to the.
Again, that's why Milton's going to get a boatload of money.
Yeah. Well, let me say that. There's a lot of people in Eagle land here who are concerned about the defensive contracts because they look at some of the young defensive guys on the team. I think that's fair. You're going to have to pay Jalen Carter. You're going to have to pay Nolan Smith. You're going to have to pay Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. But with the way contracts work and with the way Howie's able to move it, can I look at Milton Williams or Zach Bond and say, I can easily give you a 2-year deal because I'm 2 years away from any real cap hitting on Jalen Carter, even Jordan Davis if I extended him, even Nolan Smith, because even if I do give him the extension, and like I did with Devontae Smith, I put that 5th-year option into the money, how he's going to push that money so far out. Look at Devontae Smith's cap hit this year. You can't not sign.
Look at Jalen.
Look
at Jalen Hurts' void years on his contract.
That's what I'm saying. So wouldn't I be able to pay Zach Bond a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal that's effectively 2 years and not have to worry about the guys you got to pay on defense in the future?
You know, I'm going to go back to a tush push here. Everybody wants that band. What about how the Eagles just manipulate the salary cap and dead money that really doesn't exist?
No, that's just all the other teams being stupid. And
well, the Saints do it. They're just bad at. They just restructure everybody. That's the problem. You're not supposed to do that.
You got to draft good too in order for Howie's way to work.
That's true. But Jake Rosenberg was just out there saying, people call the NFL a copycat league. I say, but people don't copy the right things.
Yeah, they copy the Wildcat.
They'll try and they're going to try to. All right, the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. The Eagles won the Super Bowl, so I'm going to try to break off a piece of the Eagles and give Milton Williams a bunch of money, or Josh Sweat a bunch of money, or Zach Bond a bunch of money. That's how they think about it. The Eagles are, doing what they do, which is cash over cap. No, I hate to bring it like this, but fans that wring their hands over the cap, come on. How many times they got to prove it to you? To Zander's point, yes, if they want Milton Williams back, they will get Milton Williams back.
Yeah.
They want Josh Sweat back, they'll get Josh Sweat back.
I think Jalen is under contract to 2035 with the fucking void years.
I'm pretty sure it's 35 or 30. So Jordan Malai's got a lot of void years too.
And as long as you have an owner that's willing, like the dead money for Jalen Hurts this year would have been $107 million.
Isn't it like 90 something this year or something like that?
I'm looking at it. I just pulled it up. He's under contract. His last void year is 2035. $107 million of dead cap this year. Dead money. It would be an $85 million cap charge.
Eagles are among the league leaders in dead money every year, and they win.
Yeah. Because people don't copy the right things, and they should copy the way the Eagles do contracts, which is cash over cap. Cap you can manipulate. If you don't have an owner willing to divvy up the cash, you got issues. So
and to be fair, Howie was always good at that. Even the first incarnation of him.
Yeah, well, he's gotten much better too. I mean, he did learn a lot from his exile, so to speak. He went around and talked to a bunch of successful.
John, were you there? Were you covering the Eagles the year he got quote unquote banished to the back corner?
Yeah. Well, not day to day, but I was there from a national perspective. But yeah, he was. And when he came back, he spent that year traveling. He talked to R.C. Buford. He talked to Brian Cashman. He talked to one of the EPL. And he tried to learn from.
Was it the Man City guy he talked to?
Yeah. And he tried to learn from the best sports executives. And I think it really helped him. It's one of those things where who knows? If that doesn't happen to him, he might never turn into Howie Roseman 2.0.
My favorite is Chip Kelly's played a big role in the Eagles getting a Super Bowl. Yeah, because they fired his ass.
Yeah. Well, again, if that butterfly effect, if it doesn't happen that way, does Howie become what he becomes? Probably.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
probably not.
So. He's probably the arrogant guy that everybody hated.
But here's what Rosenberg said. If a club won't spend cash over cap, it isn't proactive to sign good players earlier than later. Hat tip to the Dallas Cowboys. It isn't willing to be creative and structured to create cap space, and its draft results aren't freakishly good. The odds of competing for championships are very limited. Cash over cap, be proactive, courage of your convictions, be creative to create that cap space with avoidable years. It's not about getting Milton Williams. Good player. I'd want him. Any NFL team. But if you don't copy how the Eagles build their roster, getting one of their pieces isn't going to help you. Not going to help you.
In other words, be an amazing GM. Be an amazing GM with an owner willing to spend, or you're going to have trouble. You know.
I was talking to a couple guys in Jacksonville because Ian Cunningham didn't get the job, and one of the guys actually made the joke. He goes, "Look, I wanted Ian Cunningham. Like, can Jalen Hurts come? Can Jeff Stoutland come? Can Nick Sirianni come? You know, it's a little more than Ian Cunningham."
Yeah, but if you have a guy who knows how to build it and has a good understanding of it, I would take my chances with him.
Yeah, I don't know much about the guy they hired.
I don't know much about him either.
From the Rams, and he's a scouting guy.
So I love their defense. I love their defensive coordinator hire.
Who'd they hire?
Campanelli.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Campanelli.
I saw our guy Sean Desai got a new gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Grant Udinski is like 28 years old as their offensive coordinator. Boy,
Zander, who's older, Grant Udinski or you?
I have no idea, Jeff Kerr.
You know how old you are?
I'm how old's Grant Udinski? I don't know.
Like 28, right?
28, 29.
So he got me beat.
Okay, so he got you beat.
He's an offensive coordinator. He wasn't even a quarterback's coach.
He's 29. Holy crap, Jeff.
Sean McVay is
Doyle. Wait, this guy's from Doylestown, PA.
Yep, he's from Doylestown, PA. I think he was a quarterback at Doylestown.
Where did he go to high school? Central Bucks?
Yep. Central Bucks. One of the Central Buckses. Yep.
That's funny.
I'm pretty sure he was a quarterback. I covered high school sports. I definitely remember that name, Grant Udinski.
Wow. CB West. I didn't know he was from Doylestown. I know he was, if you think about, so he came from Minnesota. And they have O'Connell, who's really good. Who the hell's their offensive coordinator? Wes Phillips, who's the son of
Bum Phillips. It's not Wade Phillips.
Wade Phillips.
The grandson of Bum
Phillips. He's the offensive coordinator. Their quarterback's coach is Josh McCown. So he's way down on the list. I don't know. He might be the smartest offensive mind. At best, he's fourth. And they had a passing game court. He's fifth or sixth on their flow chart from an offensive standpoint. And, maybe he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I love Tony. I know Tony. He's the only owner I can say I can call up and he'll get back to me immediately, or, he's very busy. So maybe not immediately, but good dude. Man, they do things the wrong way.
You know what? It's funny.
Have you told him that, John, or no? You don't have that type.
Oh God, yeah, I told him that.
You know what's funny?
We've had some bigger fights than you and I had last week.
Jaguars
mainly about wrestling, though.
Jaguars fans love the comp. Like, they love the ownership because they do try.
Well, they're good
they just
people.
don't get it right.
Yeah. Well, they do try. They're passionate, but first of all, they hired a scouting guy. You gotta be able to scout, but you also got to handle the cap. And they're hiring Tony Baselli and this guy from the Rams, who's a scouting guy, and a 29-year-old offensive coordinator who's sixth on the flow chart in Minnesota. I mean, come on, dudes. What are you doing? Godspeed to them, but I don't think it's going to work. And I didn't even get to Liam Cohen. Who the hell is Liam Cohen? Other than he had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay.
Liam Cohen had leverage over them because of Trent Baalke.
And how unprofessional was the way he handled that? We talked about that on the show. It's like you ghost the team that's going to pay you millions of dollars. Yeah, not a good sign.
Oh, it was fun being on the Jaguars radio station that week. Because they're like, do you even want him? I'm like, dude, he just like ghosted your franchise. And they laughed.
Hey, Josh McDaniels probably now. There's a great offensive mind, terrible head coach,
horrible head coach.
But when he ghosted Indianapolis, I would not even consider.
By the
him.
way, the greatest head coaching matchup, and I literally wanted to watch all 3.5 hours of it because I can't stand both of them. Josh McDaniels versus Dennis Allen when it was Patriots Saints.
You and Dennis Allen.
It was glorious.
I don't
how
know.
bad they were. Oh, sorry, not Patriots Saints. Raiders Saints.
I'm not going to say the name of your dog, but I will say this. And I know you got your dog recently, so we couldn't.
I need to hear it. What's the name of the dog?
But
you can guess.
Jeff can say it if he wants. Dennis Allen had to have kicked one of your dogs at one point of your life.
I love Dennis Allen as a coordinator. I love the hire in Chicago. It's a great hire. He sucks as a head coach. Wade Phillips sucked as a head coach, and he made the playoffs.
Yeah, Wade was a great defensive coordinator. Yeah. Great defensive coordinator.
Just wasn't a good head coach. There's a lot of people like that. Frank Reich's not a great head coach.
Oh, don't say that in this town. Is he going to come back to be the Eagles quarterbacks coach?
I'd rather have John McMullen as the Eagles quarterbacks coach.
I don't know if you want that. I'd rather have Frank. Frank knows what he's doing, but I think that job is a little bit, in the rearview mirror.
Like I said,
what do we got today? We got Howie speaking today, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, Howie's talking today.
Back to Frank Reich. It's like what a fan said to me on Twitter, and I agree 100%. Frank Reich has literally like 30 million reasons not to coach.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like, why would you even want to? Even if no one wants you, I'm like, fine. No one wants me. I'm good. I'll sit on my ass and watch Loki season 2 all day long. I'll take this.
Speaking of it, Jeff, what the heck are you watching this offseason? Because I'm going Jeff Kerr and watching old football games.
I do a lot of that. But I do have to catch up on some shows. I will say that. Reacher's one of them.
Oh yeah, they put Reacher on. You know what bothers me about that? They used to put them all on. I can't stand that when I have to wait for the weekly edition.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you like them all in a row. Yeah. That's what I like about Netflix. They all seem to come in a row. Like again, I'm a Marvel nut. When Daredevil came out on Netflix, they had them all in a row. I was done that in a day. I just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, I need them all. I need to binge because I'm very rarely, like, I just watched season 2 of The Diplomat on Netflix. I banged that out in one afternoon. There's only 6 of them. Because I don't watch TV during the regular season.
I don't either.
So, and then I saw Amazon had Reacher up, and I'm like, first 3 episodes, give me a break. And then they're doing, I don't have time for that.
I was told season 2 of The Old Man sucks, so I don't know if I'm going to watch that.
What is
this is all foreign to me. What you guys are spending? I've heard of the Reacher show. That's the one with the big husky dude. What's his name?
Yeah, I don't know what his name is. Good.
And the only thing I know him from is that show when I was a kid. What was he? Thad Castle or something in that Blue Mountain State.
Yeah, Blue Mountain State. Yeah, you know where that's at.
Yeah, so that's where I knew him from.
I'm trying to think if there's any like sports related shows I want to watch, like because I watch a ton of sports documentaries too.
Alan Richson.
Oh, you know what I gotta watch? We Beat the Dream Team. You guys ever hear of this? The college select team that actually beat the Dream Team in 1992. It was like Grant Hill, Chris Webber, and all those guys were on it. They played them in a scrimmage and they beat them.
I don't recall it, but yeah, that used to happen a lot where the college kids would upset the Olympic team and pre-trial. I didn't know the 92 team got beat though.
Apparently, like Chuck Daly loved it because that was the message to him. Anybody can beat you on any given day. I don't care how good you guys are.
That was not the case.
Yeah. Well, apparently that's what's because apparently they played them the next day in a scrimmage again. They beat them by like 50 points.
Yeah. That was a good team. But even that, I mean, Larry Bird at the end of his career, some of the guys were there because of their previous history that should have been there. It could have been better, sadly, scarily. Could have been even better.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple omissions because of our boy Michael Jordan.
Yeah, could have been better.
I love Michael Jordan's pettiness. It's the greatest thing in sports.
You call it pettiness. He calls it competitiveness.
His hatred for Isaiah Thomas is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I like to think that some of those things are what make him a great champion. But I digress. All right, Jeff, we kept you a long time, brother. We appreciate you doing it today. Any final thoughts before we hear Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni supposed to speak today at around 2:00, I think it is, down at the Combine in Indianapolis. Your final thoughts on the show, brother, before we let you run.
I'll say this. If I did go to the Combine, I'd probably just go listen to them speak and a couple other guys speak, and I'd probably be on a plane back here that night.
Yeah, you get to hear Joe Shane talk about how happy he is for Saquon.
Well, Joe Shane is gonna have to answer for that one for a while until he gets his team start winning some more football games. Jeff, we appreciate you joining, brother. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's crazy, guys. Like free agency's 2 weeks away. I'll be in Disney in 2 weeks. I gotta ramp up Phillies coverage, man.
When are you going down there?
I'll be down there the week of free agency. So
are you like vacationing at Disney, or are you have work?
I'm vacationing at Disney. Then I'm going to go work a couple spring training days.
That's interesting. I've never vacationed at Disney other than when I was like 5 years old. I think we went there like 3 days, and my parents were like, "We're done. We're out of here. We've had enough of Disney. We're going home." So and I never went back.
Fun story. I went to Disney when I was 6. When they were building Blizzard Beach, didn't go back till last year. Now I'm hooked.
Oh gosh,
I'm one of those people, man. I like amusement parks.
I haven't been there in years.
They
have better amusement parks. They have better Universal's better.
Here's what I can never be. All right, I will keep this person completely 100% unnamed. There was a grown professional person who was older than me by the tune of 4 or 5 years older than me. Him and his wife, they each get 2 weeks off a year at their job. Both weeks they spend every year in Disney. I'm like, you're a grown adult and you go to Disney twice a year. Why can I not wrap my head? They got
adult stuff now. They have Pleasure. What is it? Pleasure Island.
Well, Pleasure Island's gone now. It's Disney Springs.
Is it? It's Disney Springs now?
Yeah. So, Epcot's the big thing for adults now. You can get all the beer you want.
They do have stuff for adults, but they have like Disney cruises now. Usually involve. I don't want to speak to your friend, but it usually involves the wife. They love it. So
my dad to get me to shut up when I was a kid.
It wasn't the wife, John. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So when I was a kid, my dad knew I was scared of the donkey scene in Pinocchio when I was a kid, and he would say he's taking me to Pleasure Island, and I'll find out what happens when you're a bad boy. I knew what happened when you were a bad boy. You were turned into a donkey and sold to the salt mines.
God. All right, I need to get out of this conversation. All right, Jeff, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I'll see you.
See you, bud.
That's Jeff Kerr. Make sure you guys follow him at Jeff Kerr CBS.
Salt mines, Jeff Kerr.
Yeah, good stuff from Jeff Kerr. All right, John, we'll wrap up a couple other topics I do want to hit on before we get out of here today. I do want to bring up the A.J. Brown comments. Did you happen to see them? He talked about him and Jalen Hurts, and it all makes complete sense to me where it's like we're two driven dudes. We're not going to agree on everything. It's like me and John. We're both hosts of Birds 365. We're not going to agree on everything in the professional world.
It always amazes me that.
But he did confirm it. He did confirm, that him and Jalen have butt heads,
Yeah, well, I mean.
Again, it doesn't bother me. But, people make a big deal.
It shouldn't bother anybody. I think I tried to explain it as best as possible. They're not as close as they once were. I think a lot of it has to do with their stages in life. And AJ's got kids now, and Jalen's engaged, and you sort of drift apart. It's just natural. But from the standpoint of being on the same page, I think they both agreed during the season that the passing game had to get better, and ultimately got better right at the point they needed it to get better. So that was one of the things. Can you just turn on the switch? Well, they did. When they needed it, it was there.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable long term? We'll talk about that a lot. No, I don't know. I'd like to see more consistency, but it's hard to argue right now with what went on last year.
Yeah, I agree. I had no problem with it. I think I like that AJ's doing some shows and some, letting some of his personality out. I think learning more about him as a player, I like it. I value it. I don't know if everybody does. I think some people look at it differently, but I value it because I think it shows you a little bit more why he's the way he is, and
well, I don't know why. And one thing he did say was, what I've said numerous times is like, why would you want a receiver that doesn't want the football?
Yeah, well, you're right about that, John. You've been saying AJ Brown was misunderstood for a long time.
Yeah, I it's one of those things where receivers, and it's not just AJ. It's I saw it with Randy Moss back in the day. I mean,
Right.
everybody's like, Randy takes plays off. Randy does. I'm like, I covered that guy for the first 6 years of his career. I mean, he never missed a practice till he tore his hamstring. Forget about a game. And people are saying, well, he's just talented. You don't get to be that level without working your ass off. And that's the same thing with AJ. AJ is just, talk about a phenomenal work ethic. That guy just doesn't stop. You heard his comments after the Super Bowl. He was like,
Yeah.
I don't, he's not satiated by it, which I think is a good thing.
I think it's a great thing. I think that was, speaking of misunderstood, I think that comment alone was misunderstood. There were people who were like, does he want out of Philly because of that comment? I'm like, I didn't read that at all. I just got that as a champion player, he's not motivated by the accolade. He's motivated by the work that's put in on a day-to-day basis to go and get that accolade. But that's what he loves. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, the last guy you want is saying, all right, I did it. And that's it. I can relax and do some different things. I think one of the most notable things people should have learned happened with Slay and it happened with AJ. They don't drink. I think that blows people's minds. Slay said he never had a drink in his entire life.
Yeah.
I think that blows people's minds. I mean, when you're talking about high-level athletes, truly, truly high-level athletes, they don't put a lot of shit in their body. Now, Slay admitted he smokes, but he's joking about that. But, yeah, I think that surprises people.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick before we wrap up. We didn't have a chance to talk about it on Friday because it happened after it came out after our show. Now, we've mentioned it in passing today. But Nolan Smith tore his triceps in the Super Bowl. That news came out kind of Friday afternoon after our Friday show, and then we weren't on Monday. So just your thoughts on that, and what do you know about that situation? What information can you give us about that situation?
I'm sorry. I was looking at Falcons coach Raheem Morris said he would vote against the brotherly shove. So
3 years ago,
there's another guy.
He said it should be banned 3 years ago. Yeah. No, I just mentioned we didn't have a chance to talk about Nolan Smith and tearing the tricep in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Just your thought on that, and then if you have any information to give us, like the timeline or whatever.
Well, you saw he'll be ready for training camp. I don't think that's not an injury that you saw. Brandon was able to get back, and Brandon got hurt on November 24th. Had surgery like a week after, and he was back for the Super Bowl. So should be no issues when it comes to next season. But yeah, the fact that, that's one thing Nick has always said about Nolan Smith, very tough guy, played through it, Super Bowl, was limited in the second half, as you can imagine. Again, you gotta push pretty hard when you're on the defensive front. I don't think it's anything to be overly concerned about. Like, I'm far more concerned with Cam Jurgens' back injury. This is more of a straightforward injury. With backs, you never know. And they did repair it, and he'll be back. But I do worry about the size, and because that's not changing. He's never going to be the biggest guy in the world.
Right.
And some of these tackles in the NFL are just ridiculously strong. And, is he susceptible to doing that again? He's very young, though. Shouldn't be an issue. I wouldn't be overly concerned with that one.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. All right, John, we had a good show today. I'm going to be, once I wrap up here, I'm going to go into pack mode. I got to load up my truck, and then I'll be trucking home. So I'll be back in the studio tomorrow for a traditional edition of Birds 365. And we should have plenty of stuff to talk about. How he's going to speak today.
Yeah.
The combine gets underway on Thursday. So we're right there, man. We're already in the thick of the offseason. It comes quick when the team goes to the Super Bowl because they play football a month longer than everybody else.
Amazing how quick it came this year.
Yeah.
And that's, part of the hurdles for the Eagles this offseason because but it's a good problem to have, as they say, rich people problems. If you're winning Super Bowls and you're worried about the shortness of the offseason, but it is a grind for the guys who have to do it, obviously. No downtime. And things will really pick up because this is the actual illegal tampering period where you'll start to hear things kind of dripped out. Agents are there, executives are there, try to get the framework together with these free agents and what they're going to be looking for. You'll see extensions, and you'll see guys getting cut. That's already started, as Jonathan Allen getting permission to seek a trade. You'll see some of those things develop with the Eagles as well.
Good stuff there. We'll read a couple super chats, John, then we'll get out of Dodge here. All right, JD3 checks in. What's up, JD? Appreciate you, brother. By the way, appreciate all the great support today. As always, I know we missed Monday. It hurt my soul, everybody, to take a day off. I do not like taking days off, but as I mentioned, my blood family was looking for a little bit of time with me. JD3, does J-Mac want pushing ban for the defense too, or just offense? I have a hard time seeing banning unless you hold both sides accountable. TIA.
Pushing from the defense. What is the defense pushing? They're trying to stop people from going ahead. Their whole definition is stop the guy.
Right.
But no, pushing banned from the offense. Everywhere, not just tush push, everywhere. You can't push guys. You can't shove guys. That used to be the rule pre-2005 for many, many years. No idea why they changed it. It's created a bunch of unintended consequences. As I mentioned, go back to the New Orleans play with Devontae Smith. That's why he almost got hurt. They wouldn't blow the whistle. Defenders are taught to play to the whistle. If you keep letting the play go, things can happen. Always thought the bush push should have been a penalty on Southern California back in the day, long before the Eagles ever envisioned the tush push was the bush push. Thought that should have been illegal. Doesn't make sense that it's in the game.
We'll see what happens with it. Josh B, what's up, Josh B? What do the Commanders have to give the Browns? They overachieved. They don't have a high draft pick, and they don't have any players to give. Well, they got Jonathan Allen. Pretty good player. He's older, but
everybody's got to give up significant assets, but it starts with draft picks. And even though Washington had a good season, they don't have the reputation the Eagles have. It's a little bit better. It'll be projected to be a little bit better moving forward. And remember, that's first round, second round, third round, unless Eagles have extra picks from other people, Commanders do. But the Eagles, they're 32nd. That means their second round pick is shitty too, compared to other teams. So it makes it more difficult. The Eagles are last in line. They're 32nd. Just like waivers. They're 32nd. That makes it a little bit more difficult than everybody else.
Good stuff there. Josh B, appreciate it, brother. We'll see what happens with it. JD3, again, JD3, thank you for all the support, brother. I appreciate it. AJ Brown is a grown man about it, though. They have problems like any other coworkers, but he doesn't go pull a TL. They work it out like men. Yeah, I agree, JD3. I have no issue with it.
I don't even think they have problems. But having difficult conversations, which AJ's spoken about on the record multiple times, it's not some people may consider it that, but when you're trying to accomplish what the Eagles accomplish in trying to set these goals, difficult conversations will be had on both sides of the football with coaches, players, holding people accountable. I mean, the assumption that any difficult conversation is automatically negative, it could be very, very positive as well.
Yep. Good stuff there. JD3. All right, Johnny Mac, great show today. Got some little drama in Eagle Land with the White House and all that crap, but I thought we nipped it in the bud. Pretty good. It does seem a little bit like a cover-up, just if you were on the outside and you're not in the know or you don't know, but we'll talk more about that and see what happens with the White House.
There is no cover-up.
I'm just saying it looked like the report came out, and then it was like, oh, they came back and corrected the narrative. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's
not a real report. Like. Yeah. Not a real report. So it was the stem. The reason they had to correct the narrative is because and it wasn't even a report. It was, like I said, it was somebody aggregating something else and didn't quote the Sun. I believe it was the Sun in the UK, which would have been 3 weeks before the Super Bowl. It made no sense on the surface. Why would you invite a team before they won the Super Bowl? Yeah, that's why the narrative was corrected, because there was an erroneous story. But when they get the invite, and they will get the invite, they will accept the invite.
Good stuff. We'll see how it all shakes out. Johnny Mac, great show today. The last thing I will say on the show today, the people have requested I bring this up because how can we end Friday's legendary debate without at least some closure? The ratings did come out for the hockey game, and they were big. Now, I don't think it proves either of our points either way, but they did come out, and the people wanted me to mention it to you. Did you happen to see the ratings come out, John?
I did. By the way, speak about erroneous. I believe the highest rated NHL game
35 years.
35 years.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
Well, it wasn't an NHL game.
No, it was not.
So right off the bat, and as actually Mark Madden, I bring up Mark because he's a hockey guy. Like, he loves hockey. He's a Pittsburgh radio host, longtime Pittsburgh #1 radio host in the market. Used to be an announcer for WCW for old school wrestling fans. So, you know me, but Mark loves hockey. Like, he's not like me. I'm not a hockey guy, I freely admit.
Right.
And he spoke about it much more eloquently than I could speak about it. And it basically, and this is what I was trying to get to, but he said it much better than I did. Again, I always talk about unintended consequences. So he was a hockey guy. So he was like you. He loved it. He's talking about the competitiveness, talking about the same stuff you were talking about, how much better it was. And then we were talking about elevating the game. Like, what's it doing for the NHL? Why is anybody watching Chicago? This is Mark, not me. Why is anybody watching Chicago, Columbus on a Tuesday in November?
Yeah, I think that's the hurdle. But I'll go back to
even the playoffs, and that was my whole point. Like, it's not helping. And by the way, I didn't know this at the time, but I do my research after it. It's already not happening because of the World Championships and the Olympics. So they know they can't do it those years. So again, where's the elevation of the game, the product you're trying to get to? Same thing I've seen it with the NBA. I've seen it in the NFL. I've seen it in Major League Baseball. History repeats itself. It does not help the actual product. It actually hinders the actual product, because why would you watch Philadelphia Calgary now on a Tuesday?
Yeah, I think overall, though, I mean, as a hockey fan and as a guy who understands it's not as big as in the world, I do think there's going to be some positives. Maybe they're not as big as I originally anticipated they were going to be, but having 10 million people in US and then there was another 7 million people watching in Canada, having that many people watch it, I think over the long term has a better chance at improving your game than it does not improving your game. I'm not saying you're wrong about everything. We'll see if it helps it out, but it's better than nothing. I would say.
Well, I would say it you know, you're actually signaling that this is better than this. So why would you watch the core product?
Well, I guess you could say that, but anytime you put all the best on the world and they care like that, I mean, it's going to be better. But anyway, I digress. Like, I wanted to bring up the
dream team. We just talked about the dream team. Did that help the NBA?
No, but why do we assume that anything that worked or didn't work for the NBA would be the same in the NHL? I mean, I think there's got to be some nuance there.
I was trying to find it, but because I'll give Mark some credit. So here's what Mark said. Big hockey guy, loves hockey, favorite sport, likes Pittsburgh, so people in Philadelphia are not going to like him. But ESPN wondering if hockey should do this every year, but you can't. Too physically demanding, and it sabotages the NHL product. Who wants to watch Chicago versus Columbus after this? Who wants to even watch the playoffs after this? This tournament equals great hockey, but oddly counterproductive. He said it better than I ever could.
Well, we'll see if he's right. It doesn't mean he's right just because a guy who likes hockey said something. Doesn't mean he's right. We'll see.
No, it doesn't mean he's right, but it's hard to refute what he's saying.
Yeah. All right. One other thing I want to do on the show today, John, before we check out of here, is I do want to thank one of our viewers. All right. I have a picture I'm going to put up on the screen. I got one of these, and I got John McMullen one as well, which I'm going to either drive to John or ship out to John as soon as I return home from my trip here. But I want to thank one of our great members. The name is Sasha, and he sent us these, one for me and one for John. You can see I have a card in the picture. It's a beautiful, I want to say it's a cutting board, and it's got the JS logo custom printed on there. So really cool. And I want to thank Sasha Romani, his name was, for sending those out. One for me, one for J-Mac. That's really dope of you, brother. I appreciate you doing that. We have great viewers here, John. We got great supporters here on the show, and that's pretty cool that somebody sent us out something like that. So I did want to thank him, and I'll get you yours ASAP, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the listeners. And we're just getting started. We're closing in on 1,000, Zander. 1,000 Birds 365s.
And we had our biggest season ever on Birds 365. We had our most podcast downloads in a season ever on Birds 365. And we've obviously, with what we've done with the community and the members and some of that stuff, obviously didn't exist before this year. So pretty amazing stuff what's happened on Birds 365. We appreciate all of you guys for the great support. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Let me get home here. Drive home back to PA, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning on Birds 365. All right, brother?
All right. Thanks, everybody.
My super chat real quick. Kyle just dropped it in. Zander, trade talks heating up for Stafford to the Steelers. We'll see what happens there, man. If I'm a team like that, I would like Matthew Stafford, but we're all good in Philly. We will monitor that. Kyle, thanks. Johnny Mac, great show. Appreciate everybody in the chat. We will catch you tomorrow on Birds 365. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.